I've personally witnessed with my own two eyes a new Mac Studio handle over 700 tracks in a Logic project flawlessly. My mind was blown. Hey, it's Chris in the big brown box here. I got a brand new Mac Studio with the M2 Max chip inside, and today I'm gonna unbox it, give you some first impressions, and I'm also gonna help you kind of compare this to the other desktop Macs out there, help you figure out, is this the right computer for you? This is actually my very first experience with the Mac Studio. Believe it or not, I haven't tried one yet, so I'm really excited to dig into this. You gotta love Apple's unboxing experience. For something that's as expensive as this is a serious setup. This is gonna cost you about $7,000 for the configuration and accessories that I'm gonna be showing you today. But this thing's spec'd out with the brand new M2 Max. It's got the 12-core CPU, the 38-core GPU, and it's been bumped up to the 96 gig 4TB option. And as you can see, this is the silver colorway. In other words, just the classic Apple aesthetic, which is gonna look good on the desk. Power core is looking good also. It's got a black woven cord. The Mac I've been using for a while is the 14-inch MacBook Pro. So to give you some context, I'm gonna be comparing that setup that I've had for several months with this new setup, which is also gonna include the Studio display, along with the Magic Keyboard, which has Touch ID and a numeric keypad. And I also got the Magic Trackpad here. Now, as you probably know, this isn't a setup for light productivity. It's really targeting creative professionals, film editors, game designers, 3D artists, basically anybody who needs advanced computing power and graphics capabilities. Also ideal for data scientists or engineers, people who deal with large data sets or need to run complex simulations. Or you know what, you might just be a business professional looking for a seamless multitasking experience with demanding apps who just wants a high-end workspace. I mean, this might be the option for you as well. I'm really looking forward to being insanely productive with this thing. And actually, if you're looking to upgrade your productivity in the Apple ecosystem without dropping several grand, you might be interested in my productivity course, Learning to be Productive, which I'll link up down below. All right, but let's compare this to some of Apple's other desktop Mac options. Because price-wise, this sits in between the Mac Mini, which starts at $600, and the new Mac Pro, which starts at $7,000. And the Mini really serves as the most affordable entry point into the Mac ecosystem, whereas this new Mac Pro is really geared towards pro users who require top-tier maximum performance. So the Studio here is a powerful mid-range option that kind of bridges the gap between that lower end budget and that higher end performance. And honestly, this thing right here is gonna be the best option for 99% of you creative pros out there. Why do I say that? Well, it gives you a significant leap in performance over the Mini, but it still offers you substantial power if you don't need the extreme capabilities of the Pro. So what is it that makes this thing such a popular option now that it's been on the scene for about a year? Well, I think it perfectly balances cost, power, and compactness while also letting you tailor it to exactly what you need. But let's not kid ourselves either. When you think of this thing, you think of the I/O, the input, the output. Look at all the options. This is definitely one of the reasons why people love the Studio. Now, the base Mini only has 2 Thunderbolt ports, for instance, but this is configured with 4 right out of the box, so you can have lots of high-speed connections for your external devices. Now, is that the killer thing, or is it the fact that you get 2 extra USB-Cs that are front-facing with an SDXC slot as well, which for photo and video editors is like a dream come true. It's not like a dream come true, it is a dream come true. Now the Mini, like the Studio here, does also have a couple USB-As and an Ethernet port, although the Studio's wired internet connection is much faster right out of the box without having to upgrade it. Now regarding the HDMI here versus the Mini, this one's upgraded as well. So if you really want the best external display experience, you're looking at the Studio. And also just say, as you're looking at configurations, the Studio is configurable up to 8 terabytes of storage. Wow. And the Mini can only go up to 2 terabytes. And then obviously it just has more powerful configurations in terms of CPU, GPU, cores, etc. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this all set up, try it out, come back and give you some first impressions and show you how this setup has changed the way that I'm working and what it's like. All right, Future Chris here, and I have got this thing set up. So let me just start off by saying I did do a couple of tests, just kind of put this thing through its paces and see if I could notice any kind of significant difference between the M1 Max chip that I've got in the 14-inch MacBook Pro and this M2 Max on the Studio. So the first thing I did, I just created a gargantuan 10,000 pixels by 10,000 pixels canvas in Photoshop, and I used a huge special effects brush on both machines. And I did get both machines to experience just a little bit of lag with this huge file and a huge brush, but the Studio did have noticeably less lag than the 14-inch MacBook Pro. And I actually got the file on the 14-inch Pro to throw up that spinny color wheel thing where it's thinking a little bit, just briefly. Now, I also went ahead and just exported the last Final Cut Pro file that I had been working with, which was my Apple Vision Pro reaction video, which if you haven't seen that, go check it out because that was a lot of fun to make and there's some really interesting insights there. So not by any means a super crazy file, but a file that I would work with, on a regular basis. And what happened was the studio exported that about 3% faster when it was all said and done than the 14-inch MacBook Pro. So for that sort of everyday YouTube kind of file, not a life-altering difference, not a reason to really upgrade, just for that, the export time. Now that would be completely different if I was maxing it out with a bunch of streams of 8K, doing the multicam, which obviously the studio is gonna be more capable of chopping up and rendering and handling than my 14-inch. But what it really feels like using this is that there's so much overhead. Because of the 96 gigs of memory here, I can just multitask with processor-intensive applications open, multiple processor-intensive applications going, just buttery smooth with no hiccups whatsoever. So I can have something pretty crazy rendering or exporting in Final Cut Pro, be working on some graphics simultaneously over in Photoshop or some motion graphics, all at the same time without the studio even flinching. And the word here is confidence. And when that really matters for somebody like me is especially when there's a deadline approaching and you don't have time for any hassles or for things to go wrong, for bogging down, for slowing down. And the studio, that's what I'm talking about. With the overhead, it just gives me the confidence that I'm gonna be able to go in at crunch time and get everything done when I need to get it done. And for that reason, it feels like a serious asset. Now, I'm gonna continue putting this through its paces, and actually after I've spent some real time with it and have been able to significantly test it, I'll publish a full review. So get subscribed if you wanna check that out. But I just gotta tell you, in terms of the form factor, it is so compact. I really like having it on the desk there, especially because number one, it fits right under the studio display just perfectly. And then number two, having that port access in the front. Obviously it's nice to have all the ports in the back, right? I got my external hard drive hooked up there, Thunderbolt, nice and fast. It's out of the way. I don't really have to see that cord. That's great. But being able to have those two USB-Cs up front, awesome. But the SD card reader, SDXC, I love that. And usually what I have to do is push in with my thumb while holding the rest of the thing down with my other finger so that it doesn't scoot across the desk, when I'm inserting a card. But that is so convenient. It's a little thing, but it's so nice. I also gotta say, I love how quiet it is. It's really, really quiet. And you don't even notice it unless you're thinking about it. You're like, why isn't it sounding like a jet engine, like computers of the past? Those days are over. Even when you're doing something crazy, intensive, so quiet. In terms of just the overall aesthetic and look and feel, it's nice and compact, so it doesn't take up a lot of space. If you have a smaller desk setup, it's gonna fit right in there. And even if you have more room, it's just gonna have extra room for you to do everything while still maintaining the convenience of having those ports right there within reach. Now, thinking back over the last year's worth of comments that I've encountered, people really seem to just love the studio, and I can see why. Now, having experienced it for myself, there's just almost nothing to complain about here. Some people are complaining about, oh, I wish that it came in black instead of silver, because I just would have liked that better, my personal preference. These are just the little nitpicks that people are coming up with. The main thing is when you buy it, you gotta buy it with everything that you need, because the upgradability is not the strong suit of the Mac Studio. But that's what I'm saying. Keyword overhead. Got so much power. Even if I went out and purchased 6 Sony A1s with 8K, and somebody like me, I could just barely even push this to the limits, even if I really wanted to. So far, I'm just really impressed, and I can't wait to actually dig in, start using it, and actually try to put it through its paces and report back. So get subscribed so you can check that out. Check out the course, Learning to be Productive, if you want to get more done with less burnout in the Apple ecosystem. Make sure you subscribe to our newsletter because I've got lots of great stuff. I'll just go ahead and say this. I think it's the best Apple-related newsletter in the world out there because it gives you everything that you want without wasting any of your time. It really is dialed in. It's the perfect newsletter. That's why the open rate's so high. So check it out. It's linked up down below. I'll catch you in the next video. Later.